What's up, YouTube? Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Really appreciate it. Joe and I feel like this is a really important topic that we should sit down and talk about. I know that this is a little bit different style YouTube video than what you guys are used to. But this is a conversation that Joe and I have had quite often, which is about mental health and men's mental health. And there's been a lot of things in our local area here lately that have kind of transpired this conversation a little bit more. And I asked Joe to sit down here with me today and us have a conversation about it for you guys. We just want to specify that we're not doctors of any kind.
Right.
If you need to talk to someone, reach out to professional and medical help. But hopefully, this little bit of advice that we share with you guys today could possibly help you. Normally you don't get to see Joe. Joe's normally behind the camera filming the YouTube videos, but I really wanted Joe to sit down and talk with me today and share some things with you guys that he's had to experience as well as myself. And yeah, we really hope you guys enjoy this video, and we hope it helps you guys. So stick around. All right, so we've had recently some things go on locally in our area. Unfortunately, there's been some young men that have struggled with mental health, and not only young men. I mean, there's plenty of people that struggle with mental health, but the ones that's kind of been, I guess you could say, like brought out into the open were the young men that's kind of had the unfortunate.
Right. Yeah. The ones we've heard about recently, and this isn't to say everybody can't
Right.
or doesn't struggle with it. This is just, I mean, we're two men, so that's kind of what we're most qualified to talk about.
Right.
But I think a lot of this stuff that we will talk about can apply to everybody.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to note that we're not just talking to the men; we're talking to everybody. But we just, as two men ourselves, that's who we can speak best on those experiences.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's people out there that are going through way worse than what Joe and I have ever went through.
Right.
Joe and I are very blessed to be able to do things we get to do every day, and our dream is to one day be able to do stuff like this full time.
Right.
But as human beings, we all go through things, we all struggle, we all have insecurities and doubts, and uh, I feel like the biggest thing is social media. I feel like has been a huge factor within this, like, mental health. I don't want to say mental health crisis, but like just paying more attention to mental health. As far as social media has been a good platform to kind of open up and show that mental health is an issue, but I feel like also it's been more of like people try too hard to uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Like they try too hard to do the things that they see other people doing online.
Yeah,
Live the lifestyle that they can
comparison, which is where a lot of mine has really come from, is being like, oh well, I'm this age, I should be doing this by now,
Yeah.
or oh, these people are doing this or doing that. Why am I not doing this or doing that? And like it can be good, it can be bad. You can do that comparison with people that are having a tougher time than you.
Absolutely.
To try to make yourself feel better, but at the end of the day, it's hollow. It
Yeah.
doesn't really help anything. So it's social media has been good because it's given a voice to people to be able to talk about stuff like their mental illness or whatever, just their mental well-being.
Yeah.
But it's also been bad because you do have a lot of those comparisons, and you see a lot of negative stuff on there. So it's definitely it kind of covers both sides of both extremes.
Yeah.
And I can't say if it's good or if it's bad. I would imagine it probably leans more toward the bad, but that may be just what I see on there. So I try to avoid it as much as possible.
So one of the questions that I had gotten on my Instagram was, why do we feel young men seem to have a harder time right now with mental health than before? And I don't want to. So
for me, I would say, and again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a mental health professional. This is just from my experience. I think it's because, at least in the era that we were growing up in and before us, it was, and it probably is still going on with younger men than us. It's don't talk about your feelings, don't show emotion.
Right.
It's words don't hurt, or you'll be okay, get over it,
Yeah.
or why dust yourself off, or whatever it is. I think that kind of mentality it's detrimental. It doesn't help anything.
Yeah.
Because we're humans. Like, we should be able to show emotion. We should be able to, like, if you cry at something, don't feel bad about it. Crying's a good thing.
Yeah.
Like, we should be able to open up.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times men, especially men, like men to men, we can't talk about that stuff with other men.
Yeah. And you and I've had that conversation several
Right.
times. Like, Joe and I have spent a lot of time together out with YouTube and shooting film and all the things that him and I try to work on together. And, we're really close friends. So Joe and I try to have these conversations of, like, why is it so hard for two guys to just sit down and talk about the difficulties that they're going through without feeling like they're a weak man, a weak person? Because, for myself, it was always really hard. Like, it's really hard to sit down and, tell one of my buddies, like, hey man, I'm going through something. Like, something's not right. I don't feel right. I feel like I'm kind of in a bad place, because you don't want to look weak. And I'm speaking that as on myself. I'm not saying all guys are like that, but that was something that I struggled with.
It's that mentality that's been kind of beat into us.
Yeah.
For 30 plus years.
Yeah.
If you show emotion, you're weak, or if you have a weak moment, you're weak. And I feel like I'm pretty fully past that at this point. I still have my moments where I don't want to be a burden to somebody and talk to them.
Yeah.
Like, that was a lot of my big issue, is just not wanting to burden people with my issues, because everybody's got something going on.
Yeah.
And then once you realize that the people that care about you, it's not going to be a burden to them, that's a big weight lifted off of you, knowing that you can go and just talk to one of your buddies or talk to anybody and just get that out there that, hey, I'm not doing so great right now.
Yeah. And I think, to answer the question, like, why are young men struggling more so with mental health, I don't think that they're struggling more now than what they did. I just think it's, it's captured more. Like, it's being talked about more. And I feel like with social media being in place now, a lot of these young men, they see somebody that they look up to, and they feel like that they have to have that lifestyle right then and there. Like, they don't see the process that went into that person making it to where they made it. They just see the person living the life that they want to live. So they automatically just feel, like Joe said, if you haven't made it there by a certain age or something, you start stressing about it. It could lead to depression, or just don't try to rush. Don't try to rush life.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've learned. I'm 30 years old. I have a newborn son now, and, like, for the longest time, and I shared this with Joe about, like, wanting to make it somewhere at a certain time, and it don't have to be that way. You should allow it just to happen when it's supposed to happen, and not try to pull yourself into this place of depression where you feel like, well, I haven't made it here by 25, I'm never going to make it.
Right. Well, and just to add on to just the question itself is, the past 2.5 years have been extremely difficult on everybody.
Yeah, for sure.
And so seeing mental health become more open of an issue, it just makes sense when we've seen so many people die.
Yeah.
We've lost people that we care about, whether from COVID, whether from whatever. It's just been a really trying time, and there've been difficult times in the past. There'll be difficult times in the future, but it feels like the whole world's been going through it the past couple of years because they have, and it just feels like that could be possibly a factor in it as well.
And I want to clarify too, like, you know, if you're the type of person that does have that mindset, like, you know, hey, I can get up and dust myself off, nothing's going to bother me. You know, I relate to that a lot just because, like, that's the type of person I've always been. I try not to let things get under my skin anymore. Like, you know, if something goes wrong, I try to be as positive as possible. But there are people out there that just, they can't do that, or they just don't have the ability or haven't found the ability to do that yet. So
there comes a breaking point with that too, where it's too much at
Yeah.
a certain point. Like you can, like, yeah, you've got to have the ability to get up and dust yourself off.
Yeah.
But you can't rely on that every time because eventually it is gonna, like, the dam's gonna break.
yeah,
So yeah, I think you have to be tough to make it through life, but you also have to know when you can be weak.
yeah. Well, I think me and you talked about this too a while back. I had heard that phrase, you can't be high all the time. Was that you that I was sharing it with? And, you know, the guy was talking about, you know, there are points for the human body that it has to come down and it has to rest and it has to, you know, you can't be up here all the time and just be perfect all the time, and everything's not going to go always as planned. Sometimes you're going to be knocked back down to here, and that's normal. Like, that's okay for that to happen to you. So, like, when you do have those moments where you're down and you're low, like, don't feel like the world's coming to an end, or try not to feel like the world's coming to an end. Like, you know, just try to tell yourself, like, okay, this is where I'm at. It's okay to be here. Talk to someone. Reach out and talk to someone. I know it's hard. It's hard. But, you know, if they're somewhat of a friend, the people that you have around you or your family, then you should be able to somewhat open up to them and tell them the things that you're struggling with, and they should listen to you.
Right.
So if you're a friend and you're watching this, listen to your pals when they come to you and tell you that they need something.
Yeah, if somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, I'm struggling," or even if they don't outright tell you, just listen to them. Like, if you genuinely care about somebody, you should be able to do that.
Yeah. Another question that I got, and I think this one right here for you is a good thing, because you've just recently, well, not just recently, but you've been running at the track a lot, or at the lake a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Been going on your runs and on your walks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So the question was, how has training affected mental health, like as far as put you in a positive mental health state? So what is, like, you know, you running at the lake or going on a walk, like, what's that done for you to kind of help you through any barriers that you've experienced?
So starting a couple of years ago, I was working from home, and then when I get off work, I'd do film stuff. So a lot of it was sitting at a desk editing. So I'd be sitting or in front of a computer for 12, 14 hours a day. That was terrible for my mental health. Like, I was in such a bad spot. And then last year, I started going to the gym more last year, over the past year. So I think it's been about a year now. And then this month specifically, I've spent a lot of time out at the lake when it's not, the weather's not like going back and forth from 80 degrees to 40 degrees. But just being outside helps. So even if it's a day where I don't go and work out, and I'm sure you feel the same, but if you just go outside and take a walk or just get out in the open air, helps so much. Just getting sun on your skin helps so much. But this month specifically, I've noticed a big difference because I've been at the lake 3 to 4 times a week probably. And getting out there and just kind of shutting my brain off for that's a big part for me. Is my brain just never wants to be quiet. Like, it's constantly going. But just getting out, getting that sun on my skin, just shutting my brain off, kind of being, while I'm not totally in nature out there because there are buildings and stuff, being just out of my normal setting just has been tremendous. It really has.
And that's awesome, man. Like I've told you, I'm so happy that you're doing that, and it makes you feel better. And, you know, the same with me. Like, there's a lot of things, a lot of hobbies that I do that, you know, from time to time I can step away from. You know, things that, you know, they make me feel better in the moment, but I can step away and walk from those things for a little while and take a break from them. But fitness and training and, you know, a healthy diet, and just those things in general are things that I've never been able to walk away from.
Right.
And I think it's because like it's helped me so much mentally. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I've told this story on my YouTube before, but the whole reason I started working out was because I had someone make fun of me. Because, you know, when I was a younger guy, I was extremely skinny. I was insecure. I was super insecure about my looks, and at times I still am. But I had this lady that made fun of me at work for how skinny I was, and it just instantly, something in my brain, I was like, okay, like I've got to make a change.
Right.
And at the time, you know, I did it just to prove a person wrong. But now it's, you know, my mindset and mentality has shifted to where I'm doing it to, you know, inspire people to want to take that first step into, you know, living a healthier lifestyle. And,
Right.
you know, I want to see people feel good about themselves, you know, like I was seeking whenever I went to the gym. So, yeah. So, I mean, just like with that question, you know, how has training helped your mental health? Like, you know, it's helped me. Of course, there comes some negatives with it because like I'm the type of person. If you guys watch my last vlog, you know I talk about I'm a person that likes to be perfect at a lot of the things that I do. So me being someone who, you know, trains and goes to the gym and tries to look and feel the best they possibly can, you know, it can have its mental kind of disadvantages on you when you're, you know, sometimes you look in the mirror and you're like, man, I don't look as good as what I thought I did or whatever. But, you know, try to keep into your mind too that people don't see you the way you think they see you. So like all the bad things that you see in yourself or you think you see in yourself, those people aren't looking at that. Like, yeah, there are going to be negatives that people see about you, but it's not to the extent of what your brain is telling you it is. And I had to learn that early on. So just find something to kind of get your mind off of that stress, that anxiety. You know, if it's not training, which is what I like to push. I like to push anybody to, you know, be healthier and exercise. But, you know, I love to play chess. And chess really, you know, if I sit down and I play a couple games of chess with my buddies, you know, it helps take my mind off things. Playing video games with my friends helps me. You know, spending time with my family, going on walks, having dinner outside, just like find things that will kind of draw you, setting your phone down and, you know, not paying attention to social media as much, not scrolling through stuff as much.
Okay.
Just step away from all that and try to find something that, you know.
And like the whole being perfect thing too, like that's a tough one too because we're all our own toughest critics.
Oh
I would
man,
say.
that's so bad.
And so like the way I would relate that is like making movies or whatever video type stuff that I do or anything creative. The first few things I did that I actually let people see, I couldn't either watch it with them or be around them when they were watching it. Like when we did Afflict of Dawn, I had to sit way in the back while the whole cast of crew, people that are gonna say they love it regardless of whether they actually do or not, because they were involved with it and family and stuff like that. I had to sit at the back because I was like, I was picking apart everything. I just couldn't be happy with what we had done. And while, yeah, there's a part of that that's good, being self-critical and stuff, but I couldn't even stand to be around the people that of anybody were going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
If nobody else did, these people were for sure going to at least enjoy it. But I couldn't even allow myself to do that at that time because I was so self-critical, so picking stuff apart. And luckily, the more that I've done that, the better I've got about it. So I can sit down really, however, and I'll still pick it apart, but I'll be able to enjoy it because I can allow everybody else to enjoy it. I won't be thinking the whole time, well, this is garbage, this is terrible, whatever. But so anything that you can do to like either give yourself positive reinforcement, whether you're telling yourself, oh, it's not as bad as I think it is, or I don't look as bad as I think I do, or whatever the thought may be, or just reassure yourself that there are people that are gonna, if you're doing something creative, there are people that are gonna enjoy it, if for no other reason than they care about you.
Absolutely, yeah. And to kind of touch on the thing that I mentioned earlier, where like people don't see what you think they see. A prime example is Joe knows how I am when it comes to filming stuff on camera. Joe knows that I cannot watch myself because I will absolutely pick myself apart. Yeah. But that example that I was talking about was when Joe watches something, Joe will tell me, hey man, like, this is great. I think you should keep it. I think you should post it. Or, hey, I think this is the things that we need to work on. And, you know, it kind of reassures me that, okay, this isn't bad, this isn't bad, this isn't bad. I know that Joe would be honest with me and tell me things, and that helps me, which is, you know, one of the biggest reasons why I asked Joe to ever help me with the YouTube channel was because working with Joe on films and movies and stuff, and you know, having his honesty as a friend was a huge help, and you know, it inspired me and helped me to pursue the whole YouTube thing. And yeah, you know, not to get sappy, but I owe a lot to this guy as far as that goes. So find somebody like that in your life. Like, I have a lot of friends that are like that. I have a lot of friends that are extremely supportive, and you know, they tell me the truth. And you have to seek that out of the people that you're around. You know, tell them that that's what you want to hear. You want to hear the truth. The truth not may be what you always want to hear. It may be criticizing. It may be, you know, it might hurt a little bit. But at the end of the day, that truth is what's going to help you succeed and go further, because you're going to know the things that you have to work on. You're going to know what they are.
Yeah. And then if you are that person that's given whatever feedback, be constructive with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't help anybody to be like, oh, that sucks, and move on. Like, that's not good feedback.
Absolutely.
And we could go into a whole argument or a whole discussion about just that kind of feedback. But if you're, it really comes down to like, and it's not as simple as saying if you're not going to say anything nice, don't say anything at all. But if you're not going to say anything constructive, then just kind of find what you do like. And I think we get so wrapped up in like negative stuff all the time, that we don't find positive stuff in, like, you should be able to find something positive in most things.
Yeah.
Whether it's something simple, you should still be able to find something positive, especially if it's somebody that you care about, somebody that you're friends with, somebody, your family, whatever, that comes to you for this kind of advice. You should be able to say, hey, I like this. Maybe you could do this better, or maybe there's a better way to go about doing this one thing. And this is a lot on the creative side that we've been talking about, but you could even do that with with working out or whatever. Somebody says, well, I'm trying to train this specific muscle group or whatever. You can be like, all right, well, here's what you can try to do. Or you can watch somebody's form and be like, all right, here's what you're doing right, here's what you're doing wrong, stuff like that. Stuff that's constructive. Never give criticism just for criticism's sake. Just be constructive.
Yeah, and that leads into another question that I actually got a couple weeks ago when I had posted the Q&A on my Instagram. Was, why do people, and I'm trying to remember how to word this correctly, but it was like, why do people feel the need to like criticize people or give advice, or always in the negative attitude, almost to the extent of like that person is jealous of things that you're accomplishing, or just don't want to see you succeed, so they give you like bad feedback on what it is that you're doing. And I feel like in our area, you know, I love our hometown, but there are people in our area that are like that don't want to see you succeed. There's some people that will just, you know, give you that negative criticism straight out the gate,
right,
before you even get started.
Right. I that's absolutely true. And then on the flip side, there are people who are good about it.
Absolutely. We have amazing people.
As far as like the negative criticism, I think it's because, going back to either social media or just online in general, that's what sells most of the time. Like, you go to YouTube, some of the most clicked views are, or I would assume, are like negative movie reviews or people bashing other things. Or if you go to Twitter or Facebook or wherever, it's a lot of the negative stuff that gets traction.
Yeah.
And I genuinely hate that.
Yeah.
Like, I would rather, like, if I see that, I either ignore it or just close out whatever I'm on altogether. I don't have time for that. And,
that's why I deleted Twitter.
And when we focus on the negative so much, that's taking your joy from you. Like, it's taking your good mental state from you, because you're just pushing that negative stuff through you. So a lot of people, when it comes to whether movie criticism or whatever, they see those negative reviews and then they're like, oh, well, this is how it's done. So then they apply that to everything else in life, it seems. Yeah. That's how it feels to me. I don't know, but that's how it feels whenever I come across something like that.
Yeah, I feel like you have to be just like a truly unhappy person to want to just negatively criticize everything someone's doing. And if you're that person and you're listening, like, you know, take a step back and pay attention to if you are doing that to the people around you, because
Right.
if you are, then, you know, there's something in your life that you need to get straightened out, and maybe you need to go seek some help from somebody.
Or just talk to somebody about it. Like,
Yeah.
or I mean, a lot of positives can come out of self-reflection as well. Like I've been in those states where I've just been in a bad mood.
Oh, absolutely.
And just
We
be
all have.
negative to everybody around me.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I think back on it, I'm like, oh yeah, I was in the wrong there. Or
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking the way I should. And we have to understand that words are important.
Mm-hmm.
Words hold more weight than almost anything else in this world because they are super powerful.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a difference between physical and emotional pain, but I mean, words can do a lot of damage.
Yeah.
And
especially depending on the person you're saying them to.
Right.
For sure.
Right. And I mean, if you're constantly saying those things to the people around you, they're probably not going to be around you.
Yeah.
In the same capacity for much longer.
Yeah.
Because people will eventually get tired of that and will eventually want something better. So I'm not saying that anybody who's constantly negative is a bad person, but you just should work to not be so negative.
And try, and you know, I know this is a hard thing for some people to do, which is, I don't want to say conflict, but, you know, tell that person. Like if there's a person that's being negative towards you, and I'm guilty of this of myself, of not speaking up to, or speaking toward people who are like this with me sometimes.
Yeah.
But if there's someone that is putting that negativity in your life, and it's someone that you care about and you don't want to step away from this person,
right,
reach out to them first and talk to them about it. Be like, hey, you know, these things that you're saying to me, they're bothering me.
Right.
And if that person, you know, if they don't take that into account and, you know, they don't try to work on that for you, then sometimes the best thing to do is to step away from the negative people that you have around you. Because if you're trying to be a person that's successful, or just a positive person, or you just want to, you know, just succeed in life, and you have these negative people around you that are constantly just putting down your ideas and your dreams, and, you know, that's ultimately, that's not going to end well for you. So, you know, talk to those people first, and if you know if they don't work on that, then that's something that you might have to consider, just unfortunately loving them from a distance.
Right. Yeah, and I'm definitely not a confrontational person, so those conversations are tough.
Really hard, yeah.
But you just, like, at the end of the day, it comes down to, do you want to be in your best, like, mental well-being? Do you want to be in your best state, or do you want to constantly let this person keep bringing you down? And you don't want to be selfish, but you eventually have to choose yourself in order to be better for everybody else.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a tough thing, but definitely speak to them. And if they react poorly to it, then you've done what you can do at that point.
So another question that I had gotten was, how do we handle stress? How in our personal lives, you know, not really talking about anybody around us or anything, just us in general. How do we handle stressful times? How do we handle when we feel like it could possibly be depression, or could possibly be just, you know, us not in a very good mental place? How do we handle that? How do we bring ourselves out of that? Are we able to do that? I had a young man ask me that on Instagram.
Okay. Whew, that's a tough one. That's good. Well, because there's so many factors that go into it. Like I'm a very anxious person, so if I feel like it's anxiety bringing it on, mainly what I'll do is I kind of will go by myself for a little while, kind of either throw on a movie, do something to kind of disengage with whatever is going on around me, and then I have to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
So I'll go by myself, kind of collect my thoughts for a little bit, kind of relax, and then go in and speak to somebody about it. If it's stress, like if just I feel kind of that weight on me of just the world of everything, whether it's bills, whether it's like job stuff, anything. With that, I typically will go straight to somebody and talk to them, or try to anyway, or just kind of put a feeler out and be like, "Hey, I'm not in the best spot right now.
Mm-hmm.
How's it going?" Just try to like, and sometimes I won't even bring it up. I'll just try to talk to somebody just to be talking to them, just to kind of get my mind off of whatever that is.
Well, there's been times that I've actually texted you and I've been like, "Hey man, how are you doing?" You're like, you know, I've been better, but you know," and then we'll get in the conversation of what's going on.
Right. Yeah. And that's one of the many reasons I'm thankful to have you as such a good friend is because I don't know how, but sometimes it feels like you can almost like intuit something's going on.
I'm a Libra. I've got that sense.
And so there have been times just out of nowhere he'll text me and I'm like, huh, okay.
I've actually had a lot of people tell me that. They're like, "How do you know?" Like
It's sixth sense.
I just have that intuition sometimes and I do have that sometimes. Sometimes I have just the intuition to reach out to my friends. So if you have that, you know, like if you're thinking and you're like, "Man, I should reach out to so and so and check on them," do that because maybe there's a reason that you're feeling that way.
Maybe there's a reason they're on your mind at that particular moment.
We have a friend of ours. Me and him are really close, but you know, he works out of town a lot, and I don't get to see him very often. But you know, we could go with 3 months without speaking to each other, and then you know talk, and it was like we was never separated. You know, as friends, we carry on a conversation just like we would if it was me and Joe right now.
Right.
And I think that's important too to have those type of people where they understand life is busy, and sometimes you have things that you have to do, and sometimes you don't get to talk every day or check on each other every day. But when you do, it's meaningful, and you know that person means it, and you know they love you. Right. And I think it's important to find those people too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Was there any other thing you wanted to touch on as far as how you handle stress?
The other big one for me is like creative stuff. Like if I'm feeling really stressed out, and it doesn't work every time because there are times where I'm too stressed or kind of in depression or whatever, and just can't get anything, and that can get frustrating. But in the right moments, if I can get into something and get creative, because what that does is it lets me take my mind off whatever it is. So if I can get in and I can either write or go into editing something or just take my camera and go out and take some pictures or film something, whatever, and let my mind be occupied. Then when I come back, when I'm finished with that and I come back and start thinking about it again, obviously whatever it was that stressed me out isn't the end of the world.
Yeah.
So then I have the time I can go back and then I can reflect on it when it's not so fresh. So I'll go out, spend a couple of hours, whether it's movie, whether it's whatever I'm doing, and then come back after a couple of hours, after maybe half a day, maybe even a day later, and be like, all right, let me just think about this now. Let me process this now that I'm not in the same headspace that I was.
Yeah. And
that can help. And then obviously being around people sometimes, like there are times where, and I feel like I'm all over the place because I mean the responses can.
Yeah, I mean it's not a perfect response.
Right, depending on whatever the trigger is, like it can require a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
But being around people can help. Being by myself can help. Just taking a drive sometimes. Just getting out and seeing there are other people out living their life. Yeah. They're all probably going through the same that I'm going through.
Absolutely.
And hey, they're getting by. That can really help.
Well, you've seen that quote shared on. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No,
you see that quote shared online all the time that Robin Williams used to say, where people are be kind because people are fighting battles that you know nothing about, and that holds true. I mean, every person that you come in contact with is struggling with something in their life. Might not be at that direct moment, but there's something in their life that they've struggled with or is struggling with.
Yeah.
So you just have to kind of tell yourself, like, I'm not alone. Even though, you know, when people get depressed and, you know, they do feel alone, they feel like they're the only ones going through that. But you have to tell yourself, like, I'm only human. There are people that are going through this. They just may be better at hiding the pain than I am.
Right.
But there are people that's going through the exact same things you are, and that you're not alone. And if it gets to that point where you feel that way, then definitely reach out to someone and talk to them. Like, don't allow it to pull you into a darker place to where something terrible could happen to you.
Right. Yeah. At least reach out and talk to a friend or a family member or something like that. But if you don't feel comfortable doing that, definitely reach out to like a therapist or some professional that knows more than what we do.
Absolutely.
What's helped me is reaching out and talking to friends about it. And I have spoken to a few therapists, not in a therapy setting, but just people that I know that are therapists. I've talked to them about certain things, and that helps. But I've got a handful of people that I'll talk to because those are my people that I'm comfortable going to. Not that they're more important in my life than anybody else, but those are the people that I go to when in the time of need or whatever.
Yeah.
Because then I know they'll come to me as well.
Yeah.
Like we've talked about a bunch of stuff. There are other people that we're friends with that we've talked to and stuff, and that was the big turning point for me as far as like feeling better. Was figuring out those few people that I could go to and be like, hey, this what's going on, or this is what's going on.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's such a tremendous weight has been lifted.
Yeah. For me, as far as like being able to handle stress, I used to never be a person that stressed, and I know that that sounds weird, but there was a time where there was nothing that really stressed me out, and I think stress really hit me, pretty badly was when I started struggling with like wondering if I was ever going to succeed as an actor. And I talked to you about this several times. Like, there was a point in my life where acting was my main goal. It was the career that I wanted to be in. And I was scared to death that I wasn't going to make it or wasn't going to have the opportunity to make it. And that's when I started to get stressed because there were so many decisions within my life that I felt like I had to make, which in all reality I didn't have to. But I hired an acting coach who was not a very good person, and you and I talked about this, and talking about people who give you terrible criticism. This guy was giving me terrible criticism and basically telling me that I had to leave my family to pursue my acting career, and that stressed me out. And that's when everything started, was like when I started following my dream, but not having the best guidance. Like Joe really helped me in that aspect as far as like, look, don't listen to this guy. You do what you're doing, and if it's meant to happen, it'll happen. And after that, getting like jobs that stress you out terribly, like this past job that I had was such a huge stress on me. There are a couple things that happened during my course of working at that job. I found a dead guy working at this job. Like, there was a lot of stress that was on me during this job. And now that I have left that and I've kind of found myself, like what Joe was talking about, just kind of sitting back and, finding your place, finding where you are, who you are, like that really helped me minimize the stress that I have on me now. Like, the way I look at things now is I'll continue to do acting when I can and when I have time and when jobs are available. And if something comes out of that, then it comes out of that. And the same thing with, exercise and fitness influencing and stuff. Like, I will continue to work as hard as I can to do these things, but what will happen if it's supposed to happen. And I can only worry about the things that I can control. So just don't stress on the things that you have no control over, basically, is after that long rant. Just, try to find something that makes you happy. Do it because it makes you happy. Don't do it because you're trying to reach fame or money. Like, do it because you love it and it makes you happy. Yeah. And only control the things that you know you can control. Don't try to force things and stress that everything's coming to an end.
Right. And I think going off like the job type thing, we've all had jobs that sucked. We've all had jobs that we hate. And I just don't think it's worth it to work a job that makes you stress like that makes you just miserable. Because at the end of the day, like, money is absolutely a necessity to live in this country.
Absolutely.
To pay your bills, to take care of people. But it's not the be all end all.
Yeah.
And if you are so miserable going to a job that you hate, that causes more stress than the money relieves, then what's the point? Like, if you find yourself in that moment, now maybe you can't just drop and quit right then or whatever, but start looking for something else.
Yeah. Like,
you shouldn't be, because we spend at least around 40 hours average a week working.
Yeah, I know
some more, some less.
Yeah.
Right. But that's a third of your life right there that you're spending working, and that means a third of your life you're going to be miserable. Another, say, roughly a third you're going to be sleeping.
Yeah. So
then you have 1/3 of your life left. If your job's making you miserable, you're probably not getting great sleep, and then you're probably going to be miserable in the time that you're not at your job either. You're stressing about going back, or you're stressing about money, whatever. You're stressed from work, so then you hold that the rest of the time, and I don't think it's a positive way to live your life. So if you can find a way out of those type jobs, and sometimes there may not be kind of a way to do that.
Yeah.
But I know when I've left jobs that I absolutely hate, even if something doesn't come right away, or if I have another job that is stressful, as long as I get out of that situation that I absolutely hate it, things get so much better.
Yeah.
Like even if money gets a little tighter, things just get so much better because I feel better.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm a better person at those times. So, and again, I know that money makes things tough. You can't always something else just doesn't always pop up and
Right.
be available. But just start actively looking for those if you are so miserable in your job.
Yeah. Another question that I received is, what health tips could we give to kind of minimize stress? You know, if a person doesn't have the option to leave the job that they're working at, or, you know, what are some tips that we could give to help them, you know, through a difficult.
Yeah. Well, like I said, getting out and either working out or even just going for a walk is helpful. What you eat is important.
Absolutely.
I'm still not on the best diet, but as you can see from my iced coffee,
They're good though.
Yeah.
I can have one right now.
But it's one of those things, like you just have to, like you know more about it than I do, but from my experience, just the better that I eat, or at least like the more junk that I cut out, the better I feel, and that plays into it.
Yeah, like, you know, Joe said, well-balanced diet is extremely important. Your sleep is also extremely important. With that being said, you know, our caffeine intake, if you're taking in way too much caffeine throughout the day, it's probably, you know, it's probably carrying over into your sleep, which is not giving you good sleep. So I just pay attention to those things. Just pay attention to your lifestyle and just correct some things. You know, I'm not saying, if you're not looking to be a bodybuilder and wanting to step on stage and, you know, prepping for a show such as myself, then, you know, have yourself a cheat meal on the weekends. You know, try to eat as clean and as healthy as possible through the week, and then on the weekends, go out with your friends, enjoy a good meal. And like I said, just pay attention to your caffeine intake, your sleep intake, getting outside, like Joe said, getting some sun when you can, when it's not freezing outside.
Yeah.
Just, you know, just try to pay attention to the lifestyle choices that you're making. Don't drink a lot of alcohol. Don't do drugs. You know, just
Don't drink a lot of pop.
Yeah, don't drink a lot of pop. Like,
Stuff
just
like
make
that.
just make choices. You know what's healthy and what's unhealthy. So just make those choices.
Well, even if you start like, yeah, it's best to only have one cheat meal. But if you start like one healthy meal a week, you
Yep.
just work your way up from there.
Yep.
I know some people have to go kind of whole hog and just go
Yeah, there's some
cold
people
turkey.
have to work their way into it.
And then some people have to work their way into it. I'm more of the work your way into it type. But yeah, even having like one healthy meal, you'd be like, oh, I feel much better the next day because, hey, I didn't eat a bunch of junk the night before. I didn't eat half of a pizza or whatever.
And there's also like health supplements out there too. So like there is vitamins out there that can regulate stress. Like ashwagandha is a good stress regulator. You know, there's turmeric, there's vitamin D, vitamin C, like, you know, all these vitamins, zinc, magnesium, all these things are good things to introduce into your daily lifestyle to kind of, you know, help yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, so another question that we got was, I'm trying to remember. Oh, okay, this one might be hard to answer, but why is men's mental health viewed so differently than women's mental health?
I think, and didn't mean to cut you off, but I think
that was the question.
Okay, I think it goes back to what we kind of talked about at the beginning. Is men for the longest time have been, don't show emotion, don't cry, whatever. Like, boys don't cry, which is nonsense.
Yeah. There's been plenty of times I've sat alone in my bedroom and cried. Just being honest.
Absolutely, and that shouldn't be anything that we should ever be ashamed of.
Yeah.
But society, and I mean, men are a big part of why this is that we've either been told or among ourselves we're like, hey, don't do that, you don't do that.
Yeah. And it's like, I think it's our testosterone, like, type of.
It is, and I think it's that that. I'm trying to think of how to properly say this. That nonsense alpha mentality type stuff. Like it's nonsense. Is what it is. Like we are all human beings. We should be able to show emotion. We should be able to talk about mental health. We should be able to do all of this stuff. But the idea that we're going to be seen as less than over talking about something like that, or not an alpha, which that's a whole other conversation. But not seen as that is what keeps us from doing it.
Well, to me, like I think that's more of like I think it's more of an attractive thing that a person can, you know, be themselves and just like not fake it.
I think you could add, like if, and a lot of it comes down to whoever we're attracted to. We want to try to impress them, and for whatever reason, men thousands of years ago, and in the time since, have been like, oh hey, don't cry. That's not attractive. But I guarantee if you go out and talk to Kendra right now, she would say, hey, I like that you are open emotionally.
Oh yeah, she's seen me cry many times.
Right. So it's one of those things, like it's so counter to what actually most people want. And now I'm sure there are men and women both out there who are like, I don't want somebody that's emotional. I want somebody who's kind of closed off emotionally. If that's what you want, that's fine. But we shouldn't close ourselves off if we don't want to.
Yeah, for sure.
Like if you want to say, hey, I need to just not show any emotion here or whatever, fine. But if you feel an emotion, you should be able to share it if you want to. Yeah. That's the big thing. You should be able to be open emotionally if you really want to be.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like as far as like men, their mental health being viewed differently than women's, I think it's just more so like I don't want to necessarily say that we're viewed differently, because like I think right now, and I don't want to touch too much on this because the internet has absolutely ran it into the ground, but you see like the instances like what Johnny Depp's going through right now, or like Will Smith, like these things are put out there now for people to see, like, hey, this person has mental health problems, they're struggling, they're going through something, you know, whatever it is that they're going through in their life. Like, I feel like it's just the men's mental health is just not really focused upon as much as what it should be.
Right.
And, you know, for a lot of guys, there's a lot of guys that put a lot of pressure on themselves, you know, being the man of the household and paying all the bills and taking care of their wife and their children and making sure that there's food on the table. You know, not every family's like that. There are families that do it together, but there's also families that don't do it together, and there's women who have to supply everything for the family, and then there's men that have to supply everything for the family. I just think as men, we don't talk about that. Like we don't talk about how stressed we are because we have to put food on the table for our families, or I think it's just we're so used to just being closed off and not speaking out about it. I think it's more so us men are to blame as far as guys just talk about it. Yeah. Like, get it out there. Tell people that you're struggling. Don't hide it so people don't know. Yeah. Like if you're going through something, take it to people that you know, take it to a health professional. But you know, don't close yourself off, as Joe mentioned. Don't close yourself off to that, because people just can't read your mind, and they can't just guess that you're going through struggles and hard times. Like, we have to, as men, be able to open up and talk about this.
The way our parents were raised, the way our grandparents were raised, all this, it was men didn't talk about this.
Yeah, and I want to specify something too. Like, just because you're a guy who expresses his emotions and feelings doesn't make you not a man. Like, you can still be a man. You can still be, you know, inspirational and humble and encouraging.
You can still be tough.
You can still be tough, yeah. Like
some of the toughest people I know are very in touch with their emotions.
Yeah, it doesn't make you any less of a man because you sat down and had a good cry because you're struggling, or you went to one of your buddies and broke down because you're struggling. Exactly. Like, we have to understand that as men, that just because we open up and you know, allow ourselves to be vulnerable, doesn't make us any less of a man.
Exactly.
And I think it's an important thing to really focus on. So like for you young men out there that's reached out to me and talked to me about some of this stuff, like just don't be afraid to just open up, be yourself, still be you, and share the struggles that you're going through. And if you're going through a hard time, it doesn't make you any less of a man because you're struggling. All men struggle.
Yeah.
Even the most wealthiest men in the world, they struggle. So
everybody on this planet goes through struggles, and you're not, again, going back to earlier, you're not going to be a burden talking to people that care about you.
for sure.
Now I know when we were younger, for example, like before you're in your like mid-20s, you're still developing, your brain's still developing. So if you're younger than that, you may go to your friends and they might not respond properly.
Yeah.
But if you're watching this and you are younger than that, or really any age, try to have that proper response. Just listen to people. That's more important than anything. Is let's be there for everybody. Like be there for each other.
And I think like the whole point of this video, me and Joe talked about making this YouTube video a couple weeks ago, and the whole point of this video is like, obviously we're not perfect. We don't know everything. We're not professionals, but the point of this video is to just let everybody know, especially if there's men or young men watching, like we're just like you guys. We've been through a lot of the things that you guys have been through. I'm almost certain we've probably had the same thoughts that you guys have had, and that's okay. Just it becomes an issue when it gets too dark and too deep and too bottled up to where you start having those really dark, bad thoughts that you don't want to have, and you don't want to get to that place.
Right.
And we don't want to see people get to that place. Right. The reason that we had talked about doing this video was because there were some young men here locally in our hometown that committed suicide. Yeah. And it was because they were struggling with depression, and it was like, I think it was within like the same week, 2 boys that knew each other committed suicide.
Something like that, I believe, or one committed suicide, one attempted. I don't remember the exact details.
And I don't want to say something that's false.
But it's just a terrible thing.
It's awful, and who knows what these young men were going through. I think, and I apologize if I'm wrong when I say this, but I think one of them had just recently went through a breakup. Which was a question that I had got, like, how do you handle breakups? How do you handle?
Well, it's it can be tough. Like, I mean, obviously, if you're invested in it, for sure, it can be extremely tough. Even if you're not and you've only been with somebody for a couple of months or something, like, or even less time, like, it can still be hard. Like, sometimes, like when I get in a relationship, I'm a very like emotional, lovey person. So I go in full-heartedly, and even if it's a short period of time, it can still be tough. But it's one of those things. Again, turn to the people around you, turn to the people you know, and talk to them. Like even if it's a completely unrelated topic that you're talking about, like just talk to people, be around people. It's good to open up to them about what happened or whatever you feel comfortable sharing about it. But just being around people can really be beneficial. But like relationships are, it's some of the best things that people do.
Absolutely.
Like, relationships and love and all of that. But it can be really tough when you lose that for whatever reason, whether you decide to end it, they decide to end it, what have you. It can be extremely tough. But just know that it's not the end of things. Like you will be able to move forward from that and talk to the people around you. Like because everybody, once they get to a certain age, or most people at least, have gone through a breakup or gone through whatever. So they'll have some experience, or they'll be able to listen and empathize with you. And empathy is so undervalued. We should all strive to be more empathetic toward everybody else.
Yeah. Because
again, we've all gone through stuff, and we can bring that experience when somebody comes to talk to us about it, or when we're talking to other people about things.
Yeah, and like, with this subject in particular, this is something I struggled with for a long time, like as a young man, because, I struggled with the way that I looked and the way that, the way that I thought girls seen me, and, it hurts when you don't have someone love you back. I mean, that it really does.
Oh, yeah.
And it sometimes feels like the end of the world. and sometimes feels like you're not going to make it through that because it hurts so badly. But one thing that I can say is that there is absolutely someone out there to love you. And you might not find them exactly when you want to find them, but that person's out there. And if you don't push it and you just allow life to happen, that person will ultimately, you'll find it. You'll find the right person. And don't think that just because this one person in particular didn't find you attractive or didn't love you doesn't mean you're not attracted to anybody. It just means that one person was just someone that, you didn't fit the balance with, and there's someone out there that you will.
And it starts with like loving yourself first.
Absolutely.
Like that's the best way to end up having a good relationship is
absolutely
care about yourself. Learn to like being alone, because then that'll make, when that person comes along, it'll make that more special, and make you appreciate that more.
Yeah.
Because if you're never alone and you're just constantly bouncing around, then you don't learn about yourself, and then two, you just never have time for that growth and to appreciate when the good times are there. And the same with when you have bad times. Like look back to those good moments you had, like those happy times through life and stuff, and just let all of your experiences play into your relationships or just how you're feeling. But remember the good times and the bad times and the good, because it helps balance things out.
Yeah, like to touch on like how you deal with breakups and like insecurity and stuff like that. When I was in high school, there was this girl that I was really interested in, and her and I had kind of had a fling on and off here and there, but we never went out or anything like that. And I thought she was interested in me. And one day I was sitting in class, and her friend were sitting over there, and they were watching a cell phone, and they were laughing and giggling, and I didn't know what they were laughing at, so I walked up behind them just to see what they were watching, because I thought they were watching like a funny video or something. And it was actually a video of me. They recorded me in class, and they were making fun of me, like the way I was walking and like they was just making fun of me in general. Yeah. And that destroyed me. I was like, oh my gosh, like this girl I thought was into me was actually just like making fun of me the whole time, and was making fun of me with her friend. And it took me a while to get over that, because like that then developed into, well, there's all these things wrong with me apparently. Yeah. And you just have to realize that, not everyone is going to see you the way you think that you look, the way you think that you see you. And, if you go through a breakup, sometimes things aren't meant to be, but that doesn't mean like you are less than or ugly or, it just means that you and that person didn't click, you didn't connect, and there's a person out there that you can connect with. Right. I'm married to my best friend now, and her and I have a little boy, and, we're married. We go through struggles. We've had our very difficult times, but we've also had more amazing times than we've had difficult times. And I think an important thing for a relationship, and this is very hard and it's not easy, is to just sit down and open up and talk to one another about everything. Yeah. And it's not hard. Sometimes it might cause, some tears. It might cause some arguments. It might be hard to swallow at first, but those honest conversations are what's going to bring you two closer together. Because if you have a best friend, that person is your best friend because you've opened up to that person, you've shared things with them, you guys are close for a reason. Right. The same thing with your spouse. Like Kendra and I are best friends, but we became best friends by sharing those things with each other and talking openly about things that are hard to talk about sometimes and to share. And I just feel like that's a really important thing to have, is just to be open in a relationship. So, anything else, Joey, that you want to touch on with this video? I mean,
no, I feel like I've rambled enough.
I hope the things that we've talked about in this are helpful. I really do. Like Joe and I specified, we're not professionals. Right. We just felt like this was an important conversation to have. Just get out there and talk to people that are your friends, that are close to you. If you're struggling, open up to them. Just don't be scared. Don't be scared.
And even if you're not struggling, just reach out and talk to, like, maybe you're somebody that you're really close with that you haven't talked to in months or haven't talked to in a while, just for whatever reason, because life got in the way. Just send them a message. Be like, hey, how's it going? You doing all right today? that's a good way to get people to open up, is just say, are you doing okay?
Yeah.
Like that can really help. Because a lot of times, again, people don't want to be burdens. They don't want to bring their stuff and pile it on to whatever you've got going on in your life, but let them know that that's okay.
Absolutely. And you know, if you're one of these, if you're one of these people out there that's looking to be like successful and influential, and just realize that you're going to go through struggles just the same as everyone else, and probably even a little bit harder struggles, because you're trying to be a successful, influential person and trying to create your own businesses and stuff. But just concentrate on you. Concentrate on what you have to do. Put your head down and work as hard as you possibly can in a healthy fashion. Like, don't run yourself
make sure
to the
you
ground.
come up for air sometimes.
Yeah, but just work as hard as you can, and just focus on the positive things. Try to keep a positive mindset, and try to like we talked about, just reaching out to people if you are struggling, and let somebody know.
Absolutely.
But I hope this helps you guys. I really care about everybody that watches these videos, and I really appreciate everybody that subscribes to the YouTube channel. Huge shout out to Joey for sitting down and talking to us today, and hopefully we can get him down for some more videos.
We'll see.
I know he's not super comfortable in front of the camera, but if you watch this video and it helps you, just leave a comment. Let us know if there's any other subject you'd like for us to touch on, and shoot me a DM. Just let me know if this video helped you out at all. And if you wouldn't mind, just please like and subscribe. And I love you guys. Thank you very much.